Okay, today we're going to talk about strategies for enhancing instructor presence. And the topics that we're going to be addressing are ways to communicate effectively with your students, ways to show your students that you're present in your teaching and supporting their learning, and supporting students' overall success in the course. If we could just have each of you introduce yourselves, please, and say what your name, what you teach, and what you think makes a strong, positive teacher impression. So who wants to go first?
I can go first. Hi, everybody. I'm Brandon Perez. I am an assistant professor in special and early education in the College of Ed. And I teach kind of a combination of undergraduate and graduate courses for special education majors, and then also for students who are getting their master's degree and hope to become a board certified behavior analyst. And I guess for me, what makes a strong positive teacher impression is an instructor who is available, present, cares about their students, and just makes themselves available. And I think that makes a strong impression for our students.
Okay, great. Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate you sharing your perspectives and for joining us today.
Hi,
Okay,
Brandon,
Alicia.
and hi, Yvonne. My
Hi,
name is
Alicia.
Alicia Diggs. I am a visiting professor in the biomedical engineering program, and that program sits somewhere between electrical engineering and mechanical engineering. I teach uh, online right now, asynchronously online. In previous semesters, uh, they were online, but synchronous. I am remote to the university at the moment. And I primarily teach, well, not primarily, I only teach undergrads, as we don't have a graduate degree component for the biomedical engineering department. And my courses are directed towards those who are seeking the BME bachelor's degree with a focus in biomaterials and I believe biomechanics. I think the two are lumped together, but my courses center around biomaterials and tissue engineering. And in terms of what makes a strong, positive teacher impression, uh, me thinking back on those teachers that have left a strong impression on me, they were teachers who were excited about what it is they were teaching. Um, there was some degree of flexibility in terms of uh, how they were teaching or in terms of their rules around teaching that at least for me seemed to uh, helped me take advantage of what my strengths were. And then they were also teachers who were interested, who demonstrated their interest in you learning, let's say, as opposed to a grade, because they had measures in place where a student could always improve.
Okay, great. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you for reflecting back on the different aspects of teaching that have left a positive impression on you and for sharing your perspectives and what you teach in terms of the biomedical engineering program. Great, thank you. And we have some other people trying to get on, and so they'll be coming in. And so we've talked about whether or not you teach face to face, online, or in some form of a hybrid teaching delivery, and the teaching, the instructor presence is critical in all of those different modalities. So we'll explore some of those different approaches today. And Mary, thank you for joining us. Do you have a microphone, Mary? And so you can communicate with the via the chat as well if you don't have a microphone. That's fine. That's fine. You can share in the chat. Thank you, Mary. Okay, so just to get an idea of your background, Mary, could you tell us what you teach and just an example of what makes a strong positive teacher impression, please? And you can just put a short answer in the chat, please. Oh, that's okay. That's okay. All right. That's fine. So when your connectivity is strong, you can just share in the chat. That's great. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so let's consider what are the components of instructor presence. Okay, all right. So teaching in the School of Nursing, that's great. All right, so we have special and early education represented and biomedical engineering and nursing. So that's a good mix of different perspectives. And in terms of instructor presence, one of the, Alicia, you had mentioned that you teach asynchronous online, you've taught synchronous, face-to-face and all of that. So one of the things that we want to make sure that we do is when we have a course that we teach, we don't want to just kind of set it up and then forget about it. So we want to make sure that we are deliberately engaging in the course in whatever modality we're teaching. And the components of instructor presence that we're going to consider today are the persona, the social aspects, and the instructional aspects. And these all come together to have a strong impact on the teaching and learning processes, the connections between the instructor and the students, and ultimately on student success and retention. And when we talk about the persona and the social and the instructional, we want to make sure that we're considering ways to address those when we're teaching. And some of the things that you can do to show your persona, share some photos or videos of yourself. Sometimes I'll share video or photos of myself, maybe in the kayaking or something like that, showing that there's aspects of the professor beyond just what the students see in the class, and each person makes their decision about how much they will share with that. But when we show our, what's important to us, not only in the academics, but a little bit outside, then the students can see us as that whole human being, and they tend to start to share a little bit more and be more comfortable connecting with others in the class. And so some of the things that you can do in the introduction discussion forum, whether that's face-to-face or online, is you can have them sharing photos. Sometimes when I have a face-to-face class, I'll have students share some photos from their phone. And if you're having a discussion online, you want to encourage that connection. So you want to require that the students respond to some of their peers, because you're trying to build the personal kind of aspect of the learning environments. And in a first synchronous session, you want to encourage those different types of connections, have some icebreaker activities, and people have different levels of comfort engaging in those discussions online and in person. And so what I do is I scaffold the activities and gradually, have some low stakes simple, low risk types of activities that they can engage in and share, and then gradually increase the complexity of those and build upon that so that the learning community builds up over time. And, I'm present in that community as well. And some things that you can do in terms of welcoming them is ask about their needs, challenges, and goals. And that shows that you, as a professor, you care about them and you're present and you're going to be considering their needs and challenges and goals when you're teaching. And that shows that you didn't just set the course and forget about it, that you've adapted it and your persona, that you care about them, and that they that you care about them and that you're adapting the course to bring in their needs and goals. And so Alicia's asking, give some examples of low stakes activity and then higher stakes that build upon it. So I might just to get them comfortable sharing, and I try to always have a positive. Okay, yes, try to always have a positive spin on the course. And so a low stakes example might be, and I'm teaching UNIV 101, which is this semester. So these students are brand new to the university. And so a low stakes activity to kind of get them, just kind of break that ice and get them comfortable is, I'll say something like, I have them all, now this is a face-to-face, most of them are the face-to-face for that particular course. So I have them stand up and we're like in a circle or somehow looking at each other, and have them share something positive that happened to them at NIU in the last week. And that, so, they might say, like the first day of class, they might have said, oh, I had challenges finding the locations of my courses. And so then as we went along, they say, oh, you know what? I found all my classes. I got to all of them on time. And then as we moved through the semester, then I started asking them, okay, so what types of strategies do you use to make sure that you're getting your, to support your success in your courses? And so then it's kind of going from something lower stakes to, okay, now there's some responsibility on them. So what have they done? Give me an example of some goal setting technique that you use to be successful in your class, things like that. And so it's moved from something that's really very low stakes just to get them comfortable talking, because you raise a good point, Alicia, that they're uncomfortable. They might, people can be uncomfortable speaking in public. So we want to, get them comfortable, gradually get them comfortable with that. And as they practice, and we do something every week, there's engagement. And I can see that over time they're getting more and more comfortable, and they know what to expect. They know that everyone is going to have to share something. And so some of the ways that I reduce some of the stress with that is, so I'll ask for a volunteer to start it, and then we have a conversation ball. And so I'll have this ball. So the ball represents whoever has the ball is the one speaking. And so everyone else is listening to the speaker. So then to let them prepare in their minds, so we'll go clockwise or counterclockwise. So then they know, okay, I'm third in line here, or so it's not random. And so they have time to prepare and they're not shocked and stuff. And then as we move through the semester, maybe have it more random as they get more comfortable. But yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point, Alicia, in terms of the asking for examples and then their fear of public speaking, because we want to encourage them. We don't want them to be so stressed out that they can't learn. But when you're asking them about their needs and challenges and goals, then that shows them your persona as a professor, that you care about them and that you're then you adapt the course, and so they can see, yeah, you know what, the professor wove in my interests with these different activities and talked about them in class and with assignments and stuff. So that shows that you care, and that's going to show the students that you're present and engaged in the teaching and learning environments. And it's going to help with that. The connections are so important with that presence. And then, so I touched a little bit about connecting the course materials with the students' interests. Okay, great. Thank you, Alicia. And so if you're connecting examples, like I'll have students bring in examples of things that they're interested in that relate to what we're talking about. And so that's a way that they can bring in their voice and their interests, and then they share how that's connected. And also you can have some, for instance, in the course I'm teaching now, there's a number of students that have common interests. Some of them want to be physical therapists, and some of them want to own their own business, and others want to pursue other careers. And so they learn about each other, and then they can kind of share these common interests when we are working on the activities and assignments, and it helps to build those connections, and it helps to build engagement as well. And then showing the relevance of the course materials to the students' academic lives. So we will address goal setting and problem solving and critical thinking and all kinds of different stuff like that. And so having the students, what I do to help the students to discover their own voice is that, we'll talk about a certain topic and then ask them to articulate, okay, how can you apply this topic in your life, or how have you noticed this topic in your life, and things like that. And so the relevance of the course material is also important, and it shows the students that you are cognizant of the fact that the material that's being addressed in class is relevant to their lives. It's something that's going to be useful to them in college at NIU and beyond, in their careers and in their lives outside of their careers and NIU. And so these things are all kind of related to that persona, and they help to helps with engagement. And when the class is more engaged, then the students will feel that you're more present because you are creating that engaging environment, and you're building a community that is connecting on these different topics and bringing in each of their voices. And it really shows you as a powerful presence, and that will keep them engaged and keep them hopefully to stay interested in the course and stay in college. And communication, as we know, is really important. And what I do is I set up sort of patterns of communication, and the patterns would be help to build a rhythm in the course. They help to students to be able to predict what's going to happen, and they feel that there is a they get comfortable with the cadence of the course, and then they can focus on their learning, and they're not always questioning, well, what's going to happen next, or what are the expectations and things like that. So new course announcements are a really useful way to communicate with students. For instance, this one is an example of Yellow Dig is a way to allow students to engage in a discussion forum. And we have separate resources on Yellow Dig, but posting an announcement that opens the weekly module and then reminders on the same day every week helps, so students know, okay, I'm getting this opening announcement, I'm getting this reminder announcement, and then they can kind of plan around that. And you can use messages in or emails in Blackboard. Different people have different approaches. And so you as a professor need to decide what works best for you. It is important to kind of streamline so that you don't have so many different ways of, so many different tools that you're using to communicate with students, because if you keep things centralized, then it makes it simpler for people to engage. But these different ways of communicating, and they help you connect with students, because some students respond well to announcements that are typed. Some students respond well to announcements that you might create a video announcement. You can create a video introduction in the course that stays in there, and so then the students can see you, and they see you, they can see your enthusiasm about the course, and they can see you in there, and so you have a presence. And then providing feedback on assignments is also a way to communicate and show your presence, and giving them constructive feedback that gives them tips about how they can improve their assignments and their grades, something that's measurable and actionable, so that shows them that you care, and it's gonna keep them more engaged. And so I have module overviews. You might do a quick video overview or introduction to each module. And some of these things, it takes time to develop all this stuff. So what you might do is select some different, a technique or two, and then integrate it in your course. And then as you continue to teach it, you can add more of these different options. The module overviews and videos help to students to, they see you, then you can hit the objectives of the module, and if there's something that is particularly challenging about a module, you might address that, say, pay particular attention to this part of the reading or this part of the activity, because students have there's been some questions about it in the past, and so we'll address that in more depth, things like that. But having a video overview for each module is a good way to bring your presence into that online environment. And you can have these for a face-to-face class too, and they can look at those. If somebody misses the class, then they can see it. But it's a good way to have this structure in the Blackboard learning management system. You can use NIU Navigate. Has anybody used that Navigate system? It's through our academic affairs. It's when you log into it, you can see the courses that you're teaching, And you can send emails to the students from there. You can send text messages from there. And it's also a place that you'll see the student's academic advisor, and you can see if there's any alerts on the student. And so you can, if you have a student that's having some challenges in the class, it can kind of give you an idea of it. Or is it just your class? Or are they having challenges in other classes as well? And it's a way for you to connect with the academic advisors. The students can go in there and see their support team. And it's definitely a way that you can show your presence. And with my freshman students, I go in there and send text messages to them the morning of our face-to-face meetings. And that's showing, my present, that I'm present with them. And they say those reminders about, if we're meeting in a different location, maybe we're meeting in the library or the career center or something that day. And so it works well in terms of communicating, and you can also connect with the advisors on there. And another technique that's important in your establishing your presence is creating a communication plan, because we want to be thoughtful about how you're communicating and strategic about it. And there's an example of outlining expectations for communications. You can post this in Blackboard. You can put it on your syllabus. You could have just a brief example of this was from one of my colleagues, example of their background. And yes, okay. Okay, Brandon, yep. Yeah, I've used Navigate. There's quite a few resources for Navigate, and I'll send you all a copy of this PowerPoint, and then you can see the links and stuff. But yeah, I've definitely found Navigate to be useful. And there's also a study buddy. The students can go in to Navigate for each course, and they can sign up for study buddies, and then people in the course who wanted to be study buddies can get together and help each other. So yeah, it's definitely something to take a look at. And then in terms of the communication, reminding them to check their email. And I remember when my daughter went away to her undergrad, and I said, now you're going to have to check your email. And she said, oh, nobody uses email anymore. And I said, yeah, they do. You probably want to check it. And so then she came home, I don't know, a few weeks later, she said, you were right, Mom. I have to check my email. But if you share the response time that you are going to be responding to their emails and their communications, then and what you're going to be posting in terms of your communication, how you're going to communicate with them, and then what you expect from them, then that tells them, okay, this is the way the professor is going to be present, And one of the things that you can see is avoid for the expectations from the students. Avoid emailing at the last minute. So I remember when I first started teaching quite a few years ago, and I would, students would be panicking, sending these emails really late at night, and then I was panicking, and I don't do that anymore. I set the expectations and let them know. In fact, I changed the time of assignments due to 6 p.m. And I tell my students, I don't want you staying up all night, not getting sleep and, doing these assignments late at night. So, it's important that you get your sleep and you get some rest and a break. So I changed the time of assignments due to 6 p.m. And they said that they appreciate it. But being clear about the expectations for communication. And so then they know when you're going to be present. And they know that if they send these last minute emails, okay, what does the professor say that their response time is? And so they know what to expect. And considering, the world is your classroom and letting them bring in what's interesting to them in the world and sharing, most people have mobile devices now, and you as the instructor can do a short mini video from a place where you are. Maybe you're at a harbor or some place that's pretty, that has pretty fall colors or something, and if you make a short video about something that connects with class, or maybe you want to share something that you found intriguing over the weekend, then it's showing that you have a presence in the world outside of the course, but that the world outside of the course connects with it, and it brings in some creativity and novelty, and those types of things help to show your presence and help students to stay engaged. So our mobile devices are definitely very useful in terms of all of those types of techniques. And Yellow Dig is a tool. I mentioned that it's a different kind of a discussion board tool. So if you're interested in that, you could look at some of the resources that we have on the CITO page. And then the document settings that you create have an impact on the engagement in the course. And one of the things you want to do is try to determine in the class discussions, you want to be present. You also want the student's voice to be, that they know their voices are valued and heard. And so try to find that balance with interjecting and guiding the discussion, but not dominating it to the point where the students might not share as much, or they might be thinking they always have to get clearance from the professor before they share, because finding that appropriate balance is it's kind of an artistic, creative approach, but you can feel it. You can tell if you're responding too much, because then the students' responses go down. And another way to show your presence is to require office hours meetings. And I started doing this a couple of years ago with just brief meetings, but with every student. And I'll do it early in the semester, and then I'll do it again later in the semester. And then, of course, throughout the semester. But the required ones are at the beginning of the semester and then mid-semester. And it's a good way for you to be able to gauge the students' needs, build a relationship, show them that you care, ask if there's anything special that they're interested in, or any kind of special things that they want to talk to you about or need to address. And I've definitely found that the students feel more comfortable talking in class and engaging and talking with me since I started requiring these different meetings. So that's something to consider. And you could distribute a survey, and Qualtrics is a great tool for that. And if you do that at the beginning of the course, then you can adapt and bring in the students' needs. And if there's anything that needs to be clarified, or you can distribute this survey throughout the course as well. So if you're talking about whatever topic it is, you might ask them, what are you most interested in about this aspect of special education teaching, or this aspect of biomedical engineering topic that you're going to be talking about that week. And so if a lot of them say, I'm interested in instructional techniques, or I'm interested in this particular chemical or whatever. And so then you can weave that into your lecture and the assignments and the discussion. Also, those ask what needs to be clarified. You can ask this at the end of a class session, and this shows your presence and concern for them, because you're asking, you've gone through these topics, you're asking them something needs to be clarified, and then the next session you're going to clarify that. Say, okay, the survey at the end of the last class indicated that a number of you still have questions about this particular aspect of biomedical engineering. So we're going to dig more deeply into that. Or you provided additional support and resources on Blackboard, things like that. And that shows the students that you are present and working at keeping that presence and addressing their needs. And then remember, NIU has so many supports available for students, and I'm very proud of the various supports that we have for students. And you can post links to this in your Blackboard course and talk about it, and some of the different things that are available. The Husky Academic Success Center is great. They can go to the NIU Founders Library, and there's a tutoring center, there's a writing center, there's all kinds of support there. And then Blackboard Assist is support for them. It's actually in the Blackboard Learning Management System. And so depending upon their knowledge with Blackboard, so that shows that you care and that you're trying to be supportive of them. And that's really, really important in terms of their success and completing classes successfully. So in terms of the communicating with your students and showing students you're present and supporting their success, is there anything, and are there any examples that you would like to share that seem to work particularly well for your courses?
For one of my courses online, at the end of you kind of talked about this on the last slide, but one thing I do is have the students fill out, I call it an exit survey, at the end of every class period, where there's 4 questions every week. It's just, what did you like about this week? What content did you enjoy reading about the most? What did you find the most difficult? And then the last question is usually something about, is there anything you would like me to review next week? And so I usually spend the first 20 minutes of the next class period reviewing any sort of material that the majority of the students felt that they had trouble with or that they had difficulty with. And I find that they are more honest on those. If I'm trying to gauge during class, I think they're a little bit embarrassed about, saying if something didn't make sense, but when it's anonymous and it's just them to me, I think they feel more comfortable about saying, they need a little bit more help with something.
Yes, that's an excellent example, Brendan. Thank you.
Brendan.
And that definitely shows your presence and concern, because you ask it every week, then you address it the subsequent class period. That's excellent. Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Brendan, can I ask you a little bit about that? What did you say those questions were? What did you like about this week?
So the first question is, what did you find most interesting about the content this week? The second question is, what did you find most difficult in the readings this week? The third question is, what would you like me to review again next week? And then I forgot about this. I have another question that's usually, is there anything else you want me to know? So I usually tell students, if you have something going on in your life that you would like to share with me. So I usually have students, sometimes students will say, oh, my grandmother passed away this week. I just wanted to let you know that's why I wasn't as engaged in class this week. So I usually have just a question that's just anything else you want to tell me that you would like me to know.
Okay. And you do this anonymously? Did you say this was for an online class, or is this an in-person class?
This is an online class. So I have it due. So my class is on every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And I have the exit survey. It's just an ungraded. I make it an assignment or a quiz on Blackboard, but it's not worth any points. And I just have the due date the end of the day. So I have it at 11:59 Wednesday. They just have to complete it by the end of the night. And then I review those as I'm preparing my lecture for the next week. I review those to see kind of what I need to address again for the following week.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. I've tried, it's in the same venue, but it's different. The idea of the 1 minute paper where at the end of the class, you'll say, what is it that you found most challenging or didn't understand, with the idea of me coming back. But I'm not sure. I think it's had some limited success, partially in terms of my delivery of it, I'm sure. But then the other part, I'm still a little unsure if there's a discomfort with uh, speaking about what it is that's not really understood. And I was just wondering if you were doing it anonymously, if that made a difference. And I guess I would ask then if there is a way to do it in Blackboard anonymously, because I can still see who's saying what, and so maybe that is a part of uh, them being so reticent, or hesitant in terms of saying this was confusing, or that's confusing.
Yeah, I've thought about using, so mine is anonymous because it's on Blackboard, so I can see who sent them. But I've seen people do it through Qualtrics or through Google survey, because those can be anonymous.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think if you're worried that it's because it's not anonymous, there's definitely ways to get around that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay, well, I thank you for your engagement and appreciate it, and for your commitment to the NIU students and their success. And remember that our team is always available to support you. And so what I'll do is I will send this